This is Nick Thompson in Louisville, Kentucky, a bankruptcy attorney who's been practicing for over 30 years. What do you need to know if you've got a cosigner or if you've got a spouse that may or may not need to file with you? First of all, your spouse doesn't have to file with you in your Chapter 13 bankruptcy. And if your spouse doesn't file with you, then your spouse's credit is not affected. It may be that all the debt is in your name. So why would you ever have to need your spouse to file with you? There just isn't normally any reason for it. Your spouse's income is calculated into the means test with you. The means test always uses family income. So if you file bankruptcy, the bankruptcy court and your attorney is going to want to know how much does the family make. And they'll look back over the prior 6 months of income for you and your family. They'll request the prior 2 years of tax records to be filed with the court, and they'll calculate that in calculating the means test. They don't use just your income. And by using that income and looking at that, that's going to determine whether you can file as a Chapter 7 or a Chapter 13. Just because your spouse didn't sign on the debt with you doesn't mean that they're not going to use that in determining whether or not this family can afford to pay something back to its unsecured creditors. But let's say that your father co-signed on a car with you. Will this filing bankruptcy affect his credit? Well, if the payments aren't made, yes, it will. Okay. You can file in a Chapter 13 and you can pay for the debt in full, but even though you are putting the car into the Chapter 13 and you're paying in full, it may be recorded on the cosigner's credit that it was paid a little bit late. It's not that it wasn't paid, it's just that it was paid a little bit late. But if you do have a 100% plan, the lender cannot go against the cosigner, can't ask them for the payment. It's just that your plan has to pay that particular debt at 100%, full interest, full amount of what the cosigner would have been liable for and would have had to have paid. Does your plan have to pay back 100%? No. You might have a 10% plan. It may be that the unsecured creditors are getting paid just 5, 10 cents on the dollar, 20 cents on the dollar, if that's all you can afford. But the cosigned debt, and quite often that is a secured debt on a car or home, that cosigned debt can be paid back in full in the Chapter 13. Now, you've got a spouse that may want to file with you. If that spouse does file with you, sometimes and quite often, you can include all of that spouse's debts and what those reasonable expenses are into the means test and into the budget. Whereas if the spouse does not file with you, sometimes you may not be able to allow for the car payment for the spouse in calculating that means test. All of this is quite complicated, and it's very difficult for you to make that decision yourself without someone to guide you and to help you through the process and determine exactly what has to be paid back and what doesn't have to be paid back. You need an experienced attorney that can sit down and do this. And not every attorney is experienced. Not every attorney has sat for the CPA exam or has all the years of experience behind them. At our office, we don't charge for sitting down and giving you a plan of action. We don't charge you for up to 2 hours of sitting with us and discussing what needs to be done in your particular situation. We're happy if you call to make an appointment with you and give you that time and give you these answers. You can also look over our website. There's plenty of information there, and you can download our book. I'll be happy to see you. Thank you.